Hi, and welcome to this video, and welcome back to my shed. Two bolts, sheared heads there, part of today's project. Rightio. So last Christmas I bought one of my sons a lawnmower, and when we put it together and I gave it a bit of a push, I thought, gee, this lawnmower is really heavy. And it wasn't until the next time I mowed my lawn that I remembered why. My mass-bought mower has an aluminium magnesium alloy deck, and that makes it very light, but it's also presented me now with a couple of problems. If you look back at a video I posted a short time ago on replacing the starter rope, at the end I start the lawnmower and you can see that the engine wobbles on the deck, so it's actually loose. So I mowed the lawn this week and I noticed that it was getting pretty bad then. So I brought it in to have a quick look at that, and I thought I'd just tighten the bolts up. Unfortunately the bolts sheared. I suspect that the deck is actually elongated on the holes, so tightening it up wouldn't have done any good anyway. And so we're going to have to remove the engine and fix the deck plate, and we have two sheared bolts to remove from the engine itself, so that's also going to be a bit of a challenge. So let's get started. Okay. So safety first. The first thing we're going to do is disable the lawnmower so that it can't start by accident. The easiest way to do that is to remove the plug there off the spark plug, and now the mower can't start. Okay. Secondly, we're going to have to discuss how we're going to place the mower while we're working on it. The Briggs & Stratton manual says that you should always have the carburetor and exhaust at the highest point. That prevents oil from getting in anywhere it shouldn't be, but that's not a practical way to service a mower. So really you're going to have to lie it down. Now if you lie it down with the carburetor at the lower part, what happens is oil can leak out of the breather tube, and that can cause all sorts of problems, like your filter material for the air filter can get clogged with oil, and that's not a good thing. Or you can place the muffler down. Now there is a danger with that oil can get into the cylinder, and that could cause a hydrolock condition. There is, however, a simple thing that you can do to prevent that from happening. Basically that involves having the piston at the very top of the cylinder with the valves closed. So that means it needs to be at top dead center on the compression stroke. To do that, it's quite easy. You've got to rotate the engine around. Like that feels really stiff, so that probably was right at top dead center. So it's going to spin quite freely, and as you come around you're going to feel it tighten up. So you probably need to do this twice to get a feel for it, and you can feel, like I can feel there now, that's pretty much at top dead center. But I'll go past it just to make sure. Oh, it could have been a little bit further, but now it's off the compression. So I need to put it around so that the piston is at top dead center, and I think that's it there. Top dead center, the piston's at the top of the chamber, the valves are closed, and that means that there's no way oil can get in there and cause a hydrolock condition. I've given that a bit of a clean, but I suppose while it's off, I should replace the blades. What are they? Yep, they're 14 as well. Maybe. Actually, I don't think they are. Might be 15s. Yep, looks like they're a 15. Them out, whip down the shops, and yeah, that's there we go. Alright, just going to pop down the shops and get a couple of new blades. They're pretty badly worn, a few years old, so we'll replace them before we put the thing back together. Well then, I just wanted to point out that this mower is actually a mulching mower. So it has these two sections here which are like an extra blade on the center part of this mount. I just get a file and just give them a bit of a light clean up with the file. They're pretty good actually compared to the blades. Okay, so we have new blades, and let's open the packaging and fit them on. You get all the mounting hardware you need there, 2 blades, 2 bolts, 2 nuts, 2 washers, 2 wave washers, and these are the nylon locking type washers there, so once you tighten them up and bolt them down, they're not going to come loose. So just check your instructions on how they're supposed to be put together, and I will get I'll show you this really interesting tool. This is a socket. I know everybody's seen a socket before, but this one, when you twist the handle, it turns unidirectional. If you haven't got these, I've got that in a 1/4 and a 3/8, and they really are worth it. So if you see them around, I'd get a pair or one of those, I guess. Sure, as you see fit. Okay, so what do we got? We've got a mower blade. Let's go that way. Now there is a slot. This is not a round hole, it's a slot cut across it. So put your wavy washer on there, and then there's a flat spot on the bolt. Put that through like that there. Then you have a washer on top and a bolt. It's the same on both sides, obviously. For the benefit of the camera again, I guess. It's only going to fit in one way, obviously. Okay, so I am going to bolt those up. Going to get 15, wasn't it? There's no torque specification on this, so just do them up. Don't need to be done up super tight. You've got the nylon locking built into the nuts there. So when you tighten them up, as long as it's into that nylon part, that's going to lock that nut onto the bolt and it won't allow it to come loose. They don't need to be super tight, they can move a little bit. Alright, so my blades are done and ready, and I can put them back on the machine. Pop here, and we're ready to go with that. Right, so I've dug out this old bench, which you can wind out each side individually. So it creates a space in the middle, so you should be able to lift the engine off and put it into the space on that bench. And so Samson's here to supervise, so that's good. So let's get started with this. Save up. I'm going to hold on to that engine because it's going to fall out, I guess. What do you think, Samson? Is that going to fall out? Okay, so these are the top two bolts here that have sheared off. So now we're just going to remove this bottom one, which I know is okay. Taking that out. Now I have to pop this up with the engine on. So okay. So we're going to lift this engine up, which comes out wholly. So here I just put that there. We're all set to go. We can start working on pulling out these two bolts here that are, well, as you can see, they're sheared off right here. I thought there'd be more sticking out than that, but unfortunately that's what we got to work with. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but we'll make it happen. I'll start by spraying some penetrating oil in that, some more. I've been doing that sort of every day since they sheared off, but I'll do that a little bit more, make sure we get a good amount in there, and then we'll make an attempt to remove them. And yeah, after looking for this for a while, I've basically been putting this penetrant breakaway product into it for the last couple of days. I have there's no bolt here, it's basically flush. On this side we do have some hanging out, which gives us the opportunity to stick a nut onto it and then use a device I'll show you in a second, put in the bottom and then be able to drill straight into that. Unfortunately, I don't have a MIG welder, so I can't do the MIG welding technique. So I have to do the drill out in the center. I will put a blowtorch on it. This one here I'm going to have to probably grind a little bit to get it dead flat on the side and then just have a shot at going straight in the hole. But what I've been doing is, because they go all the way through, I'll put the nuts on the end that's protruding, and I'm just filling up the nut with the penetrating oil. And I've just been doing that, and I'll continue to do that for the next day or so till I'm ready to have a shot at trying to remove them. But that's getting plenty down in there. I think if it's going to get it free, it's going to get it free. I'm going to give it every opportunity possible. Okay, I just wanted to show you this trick around making a bolt with a hole through the middle of it. I don't have a lathe, but I've done this trick before. If you get a couple of nuts on here and you line them up so that they're all on the same flat, which is about there. They can still be loose, that's okay. And put them into the vise. Now, because they're in the vise, they're on this plane here, and that plane there, that bolt should be perfectly level. And because we have basically a V here, a V groove will hold a cylindrical object perfectly straight up and down. And that move there. Okay, tighten that down. So if we put that in that V, we should be able to tell that in fact along that plane there it is perfectly 90 degrees. Unfortunately, it won't be the same this way. Let's have a look. So you can see there it isn't. So it needs to be adjusted. So if we go through the process of maybe tweaking that a little bit, we can slowly bring it in to being at 90 degrees. There we are. Oops. It's getting 90 degrees that way and 90 degrees that way. We can now put that into the press drill and drill a hole straight through the center of this bolt. I'm also going to mark the center on the bolt there just by going from apex to apex and scribing a line. And so when you look at the top of the bolt where those three lines intersect, that's the dead center of the bolt. Okay, so we will move to the drill press and drill that hole. Check. Rightio, so pull that out. See, luckily we've come out right into the centre of the bolt there, so we can use this now if we need to centre a drill in a hole where the bolts are broken off in the bottom of the hole. At least it gets us close. Right, well, we can see the damage now to the base plate of the mower. That one's a little bit elongated. There's a bit of damage on the edge of the mount there. This one is the bolt that held, so this is pretty well round, it's okay. But this one's the worst, obviously it's chewed right into the into the mount here. So I'm not sure what we're going to do there, but yeah, it's chewed away a fair bit into the mount. The engine still sits down flat into that groove that it's carved there, so we just need to work out some sort of sleeve or a, I don't know, yeah, maybe a sleeve will hold that in place with the bolt. But yeah, that's another problem. Let's go back to work on the engine first. Okay, I figure if I'm going to heat up the base here where the bolts are stuck in there, I better put a bit of heat on it, obviously, but the fuel tank's an issue, so I'm going to remove the fuel tank just to make sure that nothing happens there. Alright, now we can start applying some heat to the engine mounts. You put this through a heat cycle. I have a heat pointer, laser, so that I can tell the temperature of the block, and I don't want to get too hot obviously. Okay, let's discuss what I just made, which is basically a template for the bottom of the mower, so that I can put that on. I can bolt it down to the one hole that doesn't have a bolt stuck in it, and then I can use it as a guide along with my bolt here that I drilled the hole through the center of. So I can put that on top of, directly on top of the bolt there, and start to drill into it so it's in a straight line. I might glue another piece of plastic on top, drill through that, just so it gives it a more steady angle. But that's what that is. Right, so I've made this bracket. Just have to bolt it to the deck with this first location, and then this will give me a bit of height above the fragments of the bolts to the left. So I've got two different methods, or two different things I want to try. One is the bolt that I drilled the hole through the center of. Okay, so I got some left-hand drill bits that I'm going to do. So I'm going to try and drill through the center of that with a left-hand twist bit. That's the first method I'm going to try. And the second one is I have a collection of these for mounting hinges. So like in this example with this hinge,
when you cut your recess in the door or whatever, you then use, you put that into the centre of the hinge, and you can drill into that, and that allows you to drill directly in the centre, which makes it easier. So these also work in this sort of thing. You can drill, put a left hand, you can open that up and change the drill bit in the middle, and then you can of course use that in the hole. So I'm going to try both methods and see, hopefully they both work, and we'll be able to use the left hand drill bits. If not, if that doesn't actually get them out when we do that, then we've got the we do have some screw extractors that we can use. Right, let's turn that on. Keep it off there. So I have to put this on first. Okay, so we've got that locked in. And these two are over the next two holes. So I might clamp this one in here, and then I'll get a clamp to do that. And try putting a clamp on here. Excuse my head. It's right over the centre of that bolt there. And yeah, we'll give this one a shot. Done better drills, but okay, let's talk a bit about what's going on here. I've used the hinge centering tool in combination with my form that I made, or my template, to get the hole started in the exact center of the bolt, which is the hardest thing up front to do. Unfortunately, I'm drilling this freehand because I didn't want to disassemble the engine to put it in a drill press, so that's fraught with danger in itself. And even when I've completed that, I've still got to go through the process of trying to use an easy out to remove what's left of the bolt, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to basically widen the hole until I can use a pick to get the old threads out of that hole, hopefully without damaging any of the threads in the actual aluminium base. Well, at this stage I've drilled a fair way into it and decided to try the easy out to see whether or not the bolts will move. That means tapping it in and trying to unscrew it. However, that bolt is really wedged in there, something shocking. So, hate to tell you this, but this does not work, and so it's back to drilling. Part of the problem here is also that I used a center punch to try and back the bolt out. Another technique you can use, but that didn't work either, so I've created a bit of a burr on the edge of the bolt, so I'm just going to use a file to flatten off that bolt, and hopefully that'll take that burr away. Right through the centre of the bolt. We can get them in there. If not, probably have to chisel them out, I'd say. Yeah, we're almost at the... I don't want to push that and snap off a tab. Really doesn't seem to want to come out. These things rarely do, right? Well, one of the worst things you can do at this stage is to actually break off the easy out in the bolt that you've just managed to drill the centre out of. I decided not to do that, so I backed off and decided to just start widening the hole, and that meant I knew that I would be picking at this for a while. A few moments later, who am I kidding, 2 hours later. Okay, it's taken a little while. Didn't want to bore you with that, but had to basically use a pick to pick out all the bits of thread because of the way we went with that. But got a new bolt here, and the new bolt screws all the way in, so we managed to actually pull that bolt out. There you go, nice and cleanly through. So we managed to pull the remains of that frozen bolt out without too much damage, I'd say. I did get a bolt and I shaved the end of it off there, a trick my dad taught me, and ran that through the threads to clean them up, and that's the actual new stainless steel bolt that's going to live in that hole. So that's a perfect match for that now. So I'm going to have a coffee, and I'm going to put the jig back on, and I'm going to drill out this one up the other end here, and we may have to go through all this stuff again, I hope not. Well, I fiddled around with this for a little bit, but I just can't get it to fit because the remains of the bolt there are just too high to allow the template to stick over the top of it. So my only choice is to go to plan B. The nut that we had on there actually might have had enough threads. Yeah, so that can go on there a little bit, a little ways. And then I can take my hollow bolt when I find it. Here it is. And there we go. I'm just going to have a look. Coming out there, and it's coming out right in the center of that bolt. Look at that. Huh. Wow. Couldn't have got better if I was trying to. Gee. So that the nut and the bolt with the hole through it that I just made on a drill press. The way to go. But now we've got to get it out the rest of the way, don't we? Just about got through all of that. Takes a fair bit of time. Got to drill it out to the right size and then pick at it to pop all the threads out. And obviously this one is the one that was loose and was work hardened, and it had really stuck the threads into the actual alloy base. But as you can see, all the threads are pretty much intact. There's a couple that might be damaged right at the front here, but you can put in the bolt by hand and pull it out again by hand, which is pretty good. Although this is the old bolt. This is the one from here that didn't break, and what I did was I filed 1 inch flat there, which is a cheap way to make a tap, and it just basically uses the bolt to clean out the threads, and that's what I did. I put it in, and I'd when the threads were still in there, and I put that on, and I just worked it a little bit and then pull it out, and that caused the thread that was stuck with that pushing on it, that caused the thread to move a little bit and fold up a bit, and then you could get hold of it with the pick and hopefully get like half a loop out of it, or maybe a loop. And yeah, that was it. So that's done. I'm just going to file the bottom of this flat because it's pretty rough from banging around on the mower when it was loose. Right, well that's a fairly difficult part done. Now we've got 2 bolts out, all cleaned up. So I'm just going to clean up this junk down the bottom here, this thread on the thing. Clean up the deck a bit, where that's got to go. I've made a little alloy spacer, and I've got some star washers as well to help it to stop from moving in the future. And yeah, let's start putting it back together then. Right, so I made this. It's just a piece of aluminium where I've carved these notches in with a punch. I'll show you how it fits on the wall now. It's fitting just down there. Holes drilled same size as this, which should be 10mm. So I have to put a star washer underneath here on all 3 of them, and we'll put the engine on and see how it goes. Okay, so I've got a stainless steel bolt this time, washer and a star washer to stop it from coming undone. Now I've got to get up. Oh, it's not too bad. No blades, of course. Yep.
I must have done something right because all 3 bolts have gone in. Yeah, they're not tightened down yet. I need to actually go and find out what the torque specification is for this one. Oh, so I'll go find out the torque spec and we'll come back. So this works.
Inspector Sampson.
Okay, that should be Now I'll torque this with my impact gun, should be about 2 RWs. Okay. Time for the tank to go back on. Right. Perfect. After putting some fuel in, I'm just going to turn it over slowly just to make sure that there's nothing binding. Well, the big test. The white smoke that you can see there is perfectly normal. It's just a bit of oil being burned off, given that the engine was sitting on its side for quite a while, but that'll just clear up on its own after a short amount of time. Just a minor adjustment. It's been a long video, it seems. Alright, well, it's back together. Just started it up because the new blades, it's all balanced, and there's no wobbling around on the deck, nothing like that. I'll keep an eye on it after I've mowed the lawns. Probably flip her over and just re-torque those bolts, make sure they're okay. But I'd say it's all done. Let's go back to the office and talk about it. Well, there you go. That was a long video. It actually took 3 weeks to film that for various reasons, waiting for parts. But it took 3 weeks. That footage of drilling out the bolts and trying to use an easy out and eventually having to pick it out with a pick. That was five and a half hours to do that, so it was a significant chunk of time to do that. I also didn't film some of the tools that I used to do that. I did use the drill as I showed, but I didn't get any footage of the Dremel. I also used the Dremel in conjunction with these microcarbide bits, and I used, I think it was this one here, and use that because you can get in there, you know. And I had my magnifying glass in there, and also a light in the back, and just had to basically grind away the steel and then pick it out once I got it to raise up a little bit using that the bolt as I showed. So it was a lot of work. It was very hard, but that was the most difficult bit, getting those 2 bolts out. The 2 techniques I tried both worked, but the bolt that I managed to drill the hole straight through the centre of and use as a guide, that was a charm. That came straight out dead centre in that bolt with no mucking around or angles. That was fantastic. And this is my 100th video that I'm posting to YouTube, so I'd just like to say thanks to all my subscribers and anybody who drops in just to watch one of these tips and tricks videos that I provided. I hope they help somebody along the way. That's why I do them. So thanks for showing up, thanks for sticking around to the end, and thanks for watching this video. That's all we have time for today. And just in closing, I'd like you all to look after each other, take care, and be kind to one another, and I'll see you on the next episode of Tips and Tricks.